Hi and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. Well, I want to make something that's just so basic and so good, but this channel wouldn't be complete without it. This is just classic French toast. This is the way my grandmother makes it. This is the way I've learned to make it, and we absolutely love it. It's super simple. It just takes bread and, of course, eggs, and then some butter to go in the pan, and a little bit of salt and pepper. And that's it. And then the syrup or topping of your choice. So stick with me and we'll get right to it. Alrighty, so first we need to crack some eggs. As a general rule of thumb, I like to have one egg for every piece of toast. Inevitably, I'll be able to get in maybe a couple of extra pieces of toast when I do this, but this is how I do it. So I'm making definitely 4 pieces of French toast, so I'm cracking 4 eggs, and this is so simple, y'all. And some of you have probably learned to make French toast before. You've done it different ways. You've added milk, or you've added cream, or you've added vanilla, or you've added cinnamon sugar, whatever. But this is the way that I learned to do it. This is the way my grandma does it, so this is the way I'm going to show you. Also, I do love to put these eggshells in my garden, so every time I crack one, I step away and put it over to the side. I hope when y'all are working in your kitchens and you're chopping up produce or you're cracking eggs and things like that, you're taking those things and putting them aside so that you can put them in your garden if you have a garden, because these are great nutrients to put in, to get ready to put in your soil, to feed your plants and things like that. There's really no reason not to do it. So anyway, all right, let me get this fork and scramble these eggs. Now here's the thing. You want to make sure you scramble them really well. You don't want there to be big, stringy white pieces in there or anything like that. You want these eggs to be well beaten. Also, like I said, I'm not going to be adding any liquid to this. These are just going to be straight up eggs that I'm dipping the bread into. You noticed that I'm just using regular bread, but you can obviously use Texas toast or something, but we never buy Texas toast. That's just never something that we have. If I do have any of my homemade bread, that's great for French toast, but I'll wait until it's kind of getting, to the end of its happy shelf life. When you make homemade bread, it doesn't last as long. So this is a great way to use up some of your leftover homemade bread. All right, so now I'm just going to get some salt and some pepper to add in to this egg mixture. And this is not one of those things where you measure. You just sprinkle some salt and pepper in as if you were making scrambled eggs. You might be wondering, why in the world are you going to put salt and pepper in there? But you have to know that anything that you add something sweet to is enhanced by a little bit of salt. It's why we put salt in cookies and cakes, and it's why, you put a little bit of salt on cantaloupe if you eat it, or watermelon. Sometimes watermelon we don't put salt on, but cantaloupe we always put salt on. So anyway, and then the pepper is there, and it's just a little extra flavor, but you don't want it really peppery. Well, you might, but I don't. If you did want to put cinnamon sugar in, now would be a great time to do it. You could add it into your eggs, but again, I'm showing you our old way of doing it, so that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to get a little bit of butter, and I'm going to put it in my pan and just get it melting. And the pan is really hot. You want your pan really hot when you put the French toast in, because you don't want it just cooking forever and ever and ever. So let me get this butter sort of just spread all over the bottom of the pan. And in just a minute, I'm going to get this piece of bread in there, this piece of French toast. You just want to get it coated really good and then drip off the excess. Don't let it sit for too long, because then your bread will fall apart when you go to pick it up. And this pan is just the size that I can do 2 at a time, and that's fine. Alrighty. So now I'm just going to let these pieces of French toast brown, and on one side before I flip them over to the other side. I'm going to be checking them for doneness here. Hold on, let me get this camera turned around so you can see better. Alright, that's better. Man, doesn't that look pretty in that pan? That bread coated in that egg mixture. It's just so pretty. So anyway, I'm just letting this French toast just cooking the pan a little bit. And what I'm going to be checking for in just a minute is to see the doneness of the other side. All I'm going to do, and you'll see it in just a second, I'm going to grab my fork and just start sort of touching around the edges and lifting it a little bit just to make sure that it's not sticking to the pan. You can certainly use a spatula for this, but I tend to just, as much as I can, I try to use the same utensil, y'all, because I'm lazy. I have to wash my own dishes. I don't have a dishwasher, so I don't like having a whole bunch of utensils to wash. All right, so I'm just going to let this keep cooking a little bit. And then, there we go. See? I flipped it over. So it's kind of done on one side, and I'm going to cook it on the other side. And I'm going to do this a couple of times before it's done. But I'm looking for it to be really done. I don't want there to be any wet egg mixture left or anything. Okay, and I'm jumping ahead about a minute here so you don't just have to watch these totally cook. And you see how I'm able to move them around. They're done enough on each side. You don't want them sticking to the pan at all. So, hopefully you've got your pan greased, whether you use Pam or you use butter, but I like to use butter. Look at how that looks, y'all. That is so pretty. And you see that I'm really careful to not press the bread. You don't want to press the bread because that's going to just smush it and it's going to not look nice. So we want it to be kind of fluffy. So this is getting pretty close to being done. So I'm just going to give it a tiny bit more. And what I like to do a lot of times is just before I take it up, I'll flip it over one more time to get it good and hot before I put the syrup on, or put a little pat of butter and then the syrup on. I probably won't add butter this time since I used a decent amount to cook them in, but I'm going to definitely be putting some syrup on top. Of course, you can eat it plain, or you can sprinkle some powdered sugar on top. I've heard some people put jam on top, but for us, it's syrup. We always use syrup. And in fact, sometimes we use like a homemade syrup. That's another thing I learned from my grandmother. You just mix in water and sugar and maple flavoring and a pinch of salt, and that makes a delicious syrup. I'll have to do that in another video. But anyway, okay, this is almost done, so I'm going to take this up and get it served on a plate. This is going to go to my son, so I won't be taste testing this for you, but I'll show you how it looks. There it is. I'm just going to add some syrup. So I hope you make some French toast like this and let me know what you think in the comments below. Or how do you like to make French toast? Be sure and tell me, because we probably all learn different ways of doing it, but this is our way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.